Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to talk about wind, how it affects your golf ball and how you can play better in the wind throughout the bag, whether it's swing, short game or putting. I'm here at the beautiful Costa Navarino resort in Greece and I'm on the Olympic course in a pretty unique situation here. We've got the 12th hole here, which is a magnificent par 3. It's 136 yards, but it is straight into the wind over a ravine, and then we spin around and we've got, look at the view here firstly, the Bay of Navarino doesn't get much better than that, and then we have a par 3 here which is 170 yards straight downwind with the bay on the right there. Two totally contrasting winds, okay, but and different yardages. So we're going to talk about how you can manage your ball flight in this type of wind, okay, to still hit the shot you want to hit, because I think golfers massively don't understand the wind and don't respect it enough, and it really hurts because we get a lot of wind wherever we are, okay. We're really high here at Navarino Hills, it is high, but wherever we are, UK or abroad, you know, you're going to get wind. So let's talk about this shot here. Now this is 136 yards, it plays down 4 yards, it actually is 132 yards, but it's straight into the wind, and I think today this is 35 miles an hour wind, up to probably gusting up to about 50 miles an hour. This is seriously blowing, and I think a lot of golfers here, they realise the wind's there, but they might add on, say, 2 clubs. So they might, instead of using a 9-iron, they might use a 7-iron, for example. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to hit an 8-iron. This would normally be a pitching wedge for me, and I'm going to hit my 8-iron and just see what the wind does to it, because I think this is a mistake a lot of golfers would make. So I'm just going to hit a normal shot, not going to do anything differently, and see where this ends up. So I've struck that absolutely perfectly. The wind has grabbed it and that's now coming backwards, and it's way short. That's 40 yards short. That full 8-iron, which normally goes 150 yards for me, that has gone around about probably 95, 100 yards at most. So the wind just absolutely killed it. So there's no exact science, I'm afraid, in the wind. Roughly you could probably say that for every mile an hour you could add a yard. So if this is 50 miles an hour, you're used to a 50 yard wind. But it does depend on the spin you put on the ball and the flight you hit it at. So it is a good idea to lower your ball flight and try and reduce the spin, okay, and then the wind doesn't hurt it quite as much. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit my 5-iron. Now the 5-iron for me, normally it's about a 190 carry on a good shot. A normal swing is a 190 carry. This is a 132 shot. Normally with no wind this would go 60 yards over the green, but this is how I would knock it down and how you can get a bit more control in the wind. So as I say, it's about controlling ball flight, controlling spin. First thing you should do is just move down the grip a little bit. When you go down the grip, gets the wrist a little bit higher here, and that's going to get you swinging a little bit more shoulder to shoulder. When you add in too much wrist hinge, that's going to create flight and spin. Spin into this wind, as you just saw with the 8-iron, is not going to work. So we're going to go down the grip around about 1 inch. From there, ball position, I might move back ½ inch. I'm not going to stick it right off the back foot. When you really put it back, you're going to end up hitting down on it a lot and again generating too much spin. So I'm just going to nudge it back a touch. And then really in the swing, what I'm trying to do more than anything is control my tempo. The old saying, when it's breezy, swing it easy. And that is so true. So I'm going to just feel like it's going to be a 3/4 swing because of the wrist setting at address. Nice and smooth. Try and keep the spin off it. Try and get it through this wind. This is seriously blowing now. So I've got 132 5-iron. See if we can get it there. So I've struck it well. It's turned over a bit, and that's on the back of the green, so it's got through nicely. The swing there, as I hit it, I kind of stopped on it a little bit and the club turned over. That's why it's gone a little bit long. So I'm going to rotate through it. And I think sometimes when you are playing in the wind, when it's like this, just mentally, because you got so much club in your hand, you don't want to turn through, which I did a little bit there, and I've overdone it a little bit, but we got it there. We're not in a ravine, okay? So let's do that again. Just turn through a little bit better this time. Down the grip, nice and smooth. All right, pleased with that one. So again, let's have a look. Okay, right, just about made it, and then it went in the bunker, but again, I've carried it. Let's try one more. Sometimes it's even tough holding your balance in the wind there. Really feel like you're rooting down through your feet. All right, come on, turn through it. That's a nice shot. Very good. There we go, that's a nice one. So that's really in there, pretty close. That's a 5 iron. It's a pretty full 5 iron for me. I've adapted and gone down the grip. And that's probably gone about 129 yards, I would say, that has gone with a 5 iron. So, you know, please, hopefully that's going to understand and make you respect the wind a little bit more and understand how you can flight it down. But look, conversely, we're now going to go straight downwind and just figure this out, because as I say, we're going to tee off from here, and the normal tee for the 16th hole is there. We're just going to play from here just to kind of keep it consistent. But let me just get an exact number, actually, just get this right. So it's even hard holding a bushel in this wind. Right, that is 181. Plays downwind, downhill 10 yards. So it's 171 yards to the pin, but it's straight downwind. Now, the big rule you have to sort of remember when you're playing downwind, if that hurt me about 50 yards. That was a 50-yard hurt of wind. You don't get 50 yards gaining downwind, because what happens when you're playing downwind, it actually knocks the ball out of the sky and it loops a little bit more. So you'll gain about half of what it hurts you. So with that in mind, we're saying it's about a 25 yard of help there. So that 170 there becomes 145. Okay, so I'm going to hit a 9 iron for a 170 yard shot versus I just hit a 5 iron 128 yards. So let's hit it now. 9. Okay, so I mean, it looks a long way, and the actual true yard is 179, as I say, but my adjusted yardage, if we'll call it that, is 145 yards. Now, when you are playing downwind, it's important you want to get the ball up in the air a little bit. If you hit this quite flat, it's not going to get the benefit. It's going to stay very low, and you won't actually get much gain at all. So hit a little bit higher. We now want to be at the top of the grip. That's going to help the wrist hinge. That's going to help the spin, get it up in the air. And now I would push the ball position forward. So I'd now put the ball position almost on the left heel there, just to help me flight it up a little bit and get it right in the wind. As I say, this is the 9 iron for me is a 140, 145. A really good yardage for me is 145, and it's 179. Okay, but we're playing it as 145. Let's see what we can do. Ball forward, top of the grip, a little bit more wrist hinge, and let's hit a nice full 9. See if we can get it there. Let's just cut in a little bit. Can't quite see because it's so bright, but I think that should be somewhere near. But you can really see there how the ball flight kind of knocked itself out the sky, really dipped, and that's what you get downwind. So you'd be surprised you don't gain as much as you think downwind. But let's get a little bit nearer now. Let's play some pitch shots, some short game shots, and see how the wind affects that part of the game as well. So we're going to talk about how it affects your short game shots. But just before I do that, look at this view down below. The drop off is incredible. We're here on the Olympic course at Costa Navarino, and down there is the Bay course, the Bay of Navarino. That is absolutely about as good as it gets. Amazing. So we are heavily back into the wind now, and this is a classic situation where too many golfers, I think, would use too much loft. I've got a 56 here that might play quite a nice shot, longish swing, but you can see how that ball's just going to stop really quickly into this wind. So totally the wrong shot. Obviously this is lie dependent, assuming you've got an okay lie. If it was sitting down in the rough, you would have to use more loft and just be brave and throw it. But imagine the lie is sort of okay like that. You're much better lofting down, keeping it under the wind, and getting more ball speed and less spin as well, which you get from changing to the lower lofted club. So I've got a 9 iron. I'm going to do my chip and run, release one with a 9, and you should see this run out more with less spin, which is better for this sort of wind. So you can see how the ball was lower, it had less spin, it was running out more. So don't think the wind doesn't affect your short game shots, it definitely does. So now let's have a look downwind. So when you're going downwind, I know it's tempting sometimes just to use your favourite club. Let's say your favourite club is a 9 iron and you want to play a little basic chip and run down. See, it just jumps, it's just gone. The wind is now pushing that ball further and further away from the pin. So you need to get some check on the ball. So it's going to hold. So as the wind's pushing it, the ball's holding the other way against it. So I'd now use a 56. There's a bit of green to work with, so I can still do my release one, but a little bit more spin, a little bit more flight, and you can see it starts to hold the green. Even that tried to get away a little bit, but you can see the spin was helping it glue to the green a bit more and not letting the wind push it away. So downwind, a little bit more loft just to help control it a bit more. Right, so we're now pitching and there are 75 yards to the pin. The wind is heavily into and slightly off the right, so it's coming at me this way. And I think the classic mistake here that I would see is a lot of golfers would just use their 56, 58 or even maybe a 60 in this position. And I'll just sort of demonstrate now. I'll hit my normal sort of 75 shot with a 56. I've hit that really nicely and the wind is just pulling at it and it's just short, and I really think a lot of golfers would do that. Probably the vast majority of amateurs I think would do that, and then it would come up short and then they're chipping again. So it really isn't a 56. I'll show you two options. First, you could go with a 52 or a 50, whatever you carry, but something like a 50 or a 52 and flight it down, where the 56 what I used a release 2, which would be my stock way of pitching. Great downwind. If I'm downwind, I'm going to be using my normal pitching technique. Okay, downwind, not a problem, just release it. This is the tougher shot when it's into the wind, and it wants to be more of a release 1 finish. So you're delivering a left hip impact with a slight shaft lean. That's going to help keep it down. But when you are playing into the wind, you want to also just feel that the face is just turning over a little bit and get sort of lining that up with the pin there. So we're not holding it open this way. You release the club head to here, and that helps it keep it, flighted down. So I've got 52. You can still be fairly aggressive. It's not going to run very far because of the wind. So it's still a decent shot. It's like a 3/4 shot for me, but the flight is going to help get through the wind. I'm a little bit right for the wind, but it's not going to move too much because the flight is going to be lower. You can see how that's a lot more towards the pin. It's driven towards the pin there, and we'll definitely take that. It's just spinning a bit actually there. A lot of rain this morning, the greens are pretty soft, but you can see the flight there. It really went in, and it was never in danger of coming up short. Now, you could, if you're a bit worried about how much spin that had on it, which it did there, you could flight it down a little bit low with a little bit less spin. So this is a pitching wedge, and I could do exactly the same shot, same technique, and we should see a little bit less spin, which this again isn't a shot I see players doing too much, but you should do. So a little pitching wedge now, probably about half a swing for me. And that's a lovely shot there at the pin. We should see this spinning less. It's caught the slope a little bit there. But that's a really nice way of doing it. So, there's different options there for you to get those different flights. You can, of course, play around with ball position a bit as well. If you want to hit it a bit lower, I'll put this now on the back foot and hit it in even lower. And you can see that gets through the wind a little bit more. And that's gone a little bit past the pin because I put it back and strengthened the loft. So there's different options there, but the main thing I want you to think about there is not using too much loft when you're playing into winds like that. Loft down, release 1, keep the chest moving, get the club in line there, and don't be afraid of going to pitching wedge or even 9 irons when you're pitching with this amount of wind. It's all about controlling your ball flight. Don't hit it up there and lose control. Right, now sometimes you're going to get crosswinds, and there's two schools of thought with a crosswind. The first one is you can let it be your friend. That means for this situation here, the wind is hard off the right, so you just aim, say, right of the green and let the wind work it back. That's what I would probably recommend for most of you. Let the wind be your friend, and then the other way you can do it is to hold it off into the wind. Okay, a lot of pros would sort of play that shot, they kind of hold it into it. Allows you to start it a little bit straighter, and it depends a little bit on your shot shape. So if you're a draw the ball, I would definitely, in this situation, wind off the right, let it be your friend. If you're fading it, you might want to hold it off, but generally just decide, are you going to play with it or are you going to hold it off? So if for me as a drawer, I could aim this at the right hand side of the green, just hit it out there and just trust the wind is going to bring this back. There we go, right hand side of the green, that's absolutely perfect. Drawing back to the pin, getting better all the time, and there we go, that's right on it. So that's a shot I would play, but if you're a fader of the ball or you just fancy holding it, let's say it's even stronger than this and you want to hold it into the wind, go down the grip a bit and this time have a shorter finish. Feel like you're literally holding the club this way, keeping a loft on, and you might need to take one more club if you were playing this shot, but hold the finish off. So I'm going to aim this time just about 5 to 10 yards right of the pin, but this time hold it off. So you can see it's a held off shot, and that's perfect as well. So that's barely moved because I've held it off into the wind. It has come up a little bit short. It actually just caught the bunker there because I would have taken one more. I hit the 7-iron first off and I've carried way onto the green quite close to the pin. The second time it just held off a little bit and it's just come up a bit short. I would have hit the 6 if I was playing, but just think about that crosswind. Let it be your friend or hold it off with that shorter finish. So putting in the wind, it does affect it. When you're putting into the wind like this, the wind is pushing against the ball, so you do need to hit your putts a little bit harder, okay? Don't think because the ball's on the ground, it doesn't affect it. So here, the wind is straight into, I'm going to hit it a little bit harder. And one other tip for you as well is when you're putting in the wind and you might have a stance which is sort of fairly narrow like this, which this is my regular stance. It's easy to get blown around a bit, so I would widen the stance. I would feel like I'm rooted, I'm a little bit heavier. Wider stance helps you do that, gives you a bit more stability in the wind. So I'm going to widen the stance and just give this a little bit more than normal to make sure it just gets up there to that nice foot or so past the hole, so it's a positive putt. We've also got the same distance downwind. So on the downwind putts, even on, say, for example, like this, a 15-foot putt, even if you just say your normal pace, right? So you're there, you hit it your normal pace, you can see how the wind just carries it. It's carrying it, the wind's pushing it. And it looked like it was going to be stone dead, but suddenly you've got a 5-foot putt to hold. Anyone can miss those. So when I've got the downwind putts, I'm really trying to just lag the ball to the hole. So I'm trying to leave this really 1 to 2 feet short, and the wind then should just carry it that last bit out and still have a chance of going in there. So I'm just going to just lag this down there now. Just lag it, and you can see how it's just creeping to the hole, and it's still got there. It still went about a foot past the hole, but it's no problem, not going to miss that one. So really, when you're playing downwind, just feel like you're just going to lag it. Still give yourself that nice firm base, that wider stance, but just lag it down there because the wind does affect your putts. So hopefully that's given you a little bit more insight about how you can deal with the wind, because I do feel like most amateur golfers I play with kind of miss the wind. They don't really respect it enough, whether it's into the wind, crosswind or downwind. You know, you've got to understand how it affects the ball, and you understand now in terms of swing, in terms of pitching, short game, and even putting. So next time you're faced with some windy conditions, you're going to have a little bit more ammunition to deal with the wind and still play some good golf and enjoy it. Okay, it's been a fantastic venue here at Costa Navarino to shoot it. Quite lucky the wind got up this morning actually, but what a view, what an amazing place, fantastic clubhouse. Look forward to doing a bit more here in the future, but yeah, hopefully that's going to help your game going forward. All the best.